This is the best open source AI music generator you can use right now. It's called ACEStep, and in this video I'm going to go over some demos, I'm going to show you how to use it, plus show you some useful tips and tricks to make your generations even better. And of course I'm going to show you how to download and install this locally so you can use it for free and unlimited times offline. Let's jump right in. So this is a new AI music generator by ACEstudio and StepFun. And it's really simple to use. It's basically like Udio or Suno or Refusion. You simply specify the genre or what you want the music to sound like, and you can add in some optional lyrics and then press generate. So first of all, here are some of their demos.
It's not just a dream, it's the start of a way. Building the future where music will play. A model that listens, a modal that grows. ACEstep is the rhythm the new world knows. No more limits, no more lines, 1,000 songs in a million minds. We light the spark, we raise the sound, a new foundation breaking ground. ACEStep, we take the leap into a world where the music speaks. Fast and free, we shape the skies, creating songs that never die. ACEStep, the beat goes on, foundation strong, a brand new dawn.
Very nice! Note that a few weeks ago I featured another open source music generator called Yue, but this new one, ACEstep, is just a lot better. And just like Suno and Udio, note that throughout the lyrics you can also add in these meta tags like verse, pre-chorus, and chorus, which we'll go over in a second. Here's an example where the genre is alternative rock. Let's hear what this sounds like.
Lights flashing in the city sky, running fast and we don't know why. Electric nights got our hearts on fire, chasing dreams we'll never tire. Grit in our eyes, wind in our hair, breaking rules we don't even care. Shouting loud above the crowd, living life like we're unbound. So free, feel the beat pumping endlessly. Hearts collide in the midnight air. We belong, we don't have a care.
Very nice! This does sound like a legit rock song. The vocals and the instrumentals sound really realistic and dynamic. This is really impressive for an open source tool. Here we have electronic rap.
Waves on the bass, post-busting in the speaks, turn the dial up. We're chasing six-figure features, grinding on the beats, codes in the creases, digital hustler, midnight in sneakers.
It did mispronounce some of the words throughout the lyrics, but you can always regenerate or repaint this, which I'll show you later. Alright, here's a really crazy one. So the prompt is dubstep, obscure, dubstep, 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 darkness, dubstep, dubstep, fear, more dubstep. Just make this song as dubstep as hell. And then for the lyrics, we have some dude shouting and then some other dark terrorizing lyrics. Let's hear what this sounds like.
Flames roar, darkens the sky. Weak one Drums tremble, all must die.
Pretty cool if you're into this kind of stuff. So notice, first of all, it can definitely do this like heavy metal voice, and it was able to do a pretty insane drop. Plus, if you specify echoing growl in this meta tag, it actually does generate some echoing growl. Pretty impressive. Next, if we do some ethereal dark liquid, deep bassline female vocals, and then for the lyrics we do something like this, let's hear what that would give us. Very interesting. And then here's another example with a female voice with these lyrics.
Oh, na na na, oh, 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 na 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 na, oh, na na, oh, 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 na 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 na, na na na, yeah, 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 na 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 na.
That was pretty cool. Now, it didn't actually sing the exact number of nas and yas and os. It's kind of all over the place, but a pretty interesting experiment nonetheless. Now, this can also do instrumentals. So here is some saxophone and jazz. Let's hear what this sounds like. It does sound like saxophone and jazz. Here we have a sonata with piano, violin, B-flat major, and allegro. Here is some tango with guitarra classica. This sounds beautiful and super realistic. Here is some psychedelic trance. Now, in addition to English, you can also generate songs in all these different languages. So here are just a few examples. Here is some Chinese electronic house.
霓虹灯下，我们追逐人群跃动，像潮水漫步。热浪袭来，吹散孤独。跳进节奏，不如停下脚步。
And then here is a French example.
Hélène, je m'appelle Hélène, je suis une fille comme les autres. Hélène.
Here's a German example.
Hab die ganze Welt gesehen, von Singapur bis Aberdeen. Wenn du mich fragst, wo's am schönsten war, sag ich, Sansibar, es war eine harte Übersteckte Fahrt.
Now, I have no idea if that is correct, so if you understand German, let me know in the comments below if this song is actually sung correctly. And then here we have a Japanese song, and of course it's gonna be anime with cute kawaii vocals. Damn, that does sound like J-pop. I especially love the guitars, and the melody is actually not bad. Then next, here is some Korean. Alright, well, enough demos, let's go over how and where to use it. If you want to use this online, at the top of the page they do have a free Hugging Face demo. And if you open it up, it looks like this. Or if you click on their GitHub, it also contains instructions on how to download and run this locally, which I'll go over later in the video. Once you install it, the interface also looks like this. Now let's go over what each of these settings mean and how you can use it. First, here we have the audio duration. Note that if you set it to the default value of -1, this doesn't mean it would automatically fit the song duration to the lyrics that you enter below. So keep that in mind. It's not actually going to automatically fit the song. This just means a random duration between 30 seconds and 4 minutes. So instead of leaving this as -1, I tend to set it to an appropriate length based on how long my lyrics are. And then here we have an audio to audio feature, which I'll go over in a second. Here we have the tags, so this basically specifies the genre or what you want the song to sound like. And then down here we have some lyrics. And if you scroll down a bit, here we have some basic settings. In first steps basically means how many iterations you want the AI to go through before giving you the generation. In general, the more steps you have, the higher quality the song will be, but at a certain point you're going to get diminishing returns. So it seems like the sweet spot here is the default value of 27. If you want to generate this faster, you could set this to like 20 or something, with the risk of sacrificing some quality. I'm just going to leave it at the default of 27. And then for guidance, we actually have 3 different values that you can set. So this first guidance scale determines how literally you want the AI to follow both your specified genre and your lyrics. So if you drag this to the right, then it's going to follow your prompt and lyrics more literally. If you drag this to the left, it's going to be more creative and not follow your prompt as much. Let me set this back to the default value. However, you can also override this value by setting a separate guidance for the text prompt, which you entered here. So if you want the AI to really follow the genre that you specified, then you can drag this to a higher value. Note that as long as one of these values are greater than 1, which this one is, then this overall guidance scale will be ignored. So let me reset this back to 0. And then guidance scale lyric, you can also drag this to a higher value if you want the AI to really sing out your lyrics more literally and accurately, because sometimes it does add in some filler words or mispronounce some words, in which case you might want to adjust this setting to a higher value. For me, I'm just going to reset this to 0 for now. And then over here, we also have some advanced settings. So the scheduler is basically the algorithm that you want it to use to generate your music. You can select from these two here, plus some different types of CFG. So feel free to play around with these settings. It might give you some subtle differences, but I just tend to leave everything at the default. All right, so let's try generating a song. I'm going to select all of these lyrics and paste in some random lyrics which I generated with ChatGPT. And note that for here, I don't have a full song, I just have a verse and then a pre-chorus and then a chorus. So I'm going to set the duration to 90 seconds, which I think should be enough. This is just a rough estimation. And then for here, let's just do a simple one for now, such as pop rock. And that's pretty much it. Let's click generate. All right, here's what we get.
You wore your heart on a thrift store sleeve. Told me stories no one else would believe. Said the world was cruel, but I was kind. So I traced your pain like a dotted line. We were magic in the moment, wild and unaware. But fairy tales fall silent in the cold night air. You were a storm I bet to stay, lightning love that slipped away. Spoke in riddles, smiled in rain. I kept dancing through your pain. Lightning love that slipped away. Spoke in riddles, smiled in rain. I kept dancing through your pain.
Alright, now instead of pop rock, here's another example where the genre is J-pop EDM, and then I pasted some random Japanese lyrics from ChatGPT. Let's hear what this sounds like.
ひび割れたガスの空沈む星に名前をつけた閉じた心コードの渦誰かの声が響いてた消えそうな記憶を抱きしめてもう一度君に触れたくて天使の海に咲いた夢君の笑顔まだ忘れないノイズの中叫ぶメロディー届いてこの曲を深いを越えて
Now notice that throughout the lyrics I have certain tags like verse 1, and then pre-chorus, and then chorus, and then we also have a drop, and then a synth solo. And you can kind of hear all these separate sections in the song. So these meta tags gives the AI more direction on how to structure the song. It's really important that you add these keywords so that you get consistency with the verses and chorus. You often want it to repeat the same melody, right? Plus you also want the chorus to be more exciting and more climatic than the verse. So these tags are really important. Now, in addition to these tags, you can also do stuff like build up, or intro, or outro, or bridge. These are just a few examples that I have found to work well, but there might be other meta tags that are also really useful. In fact, if you figure out any more, welcome to share these in the comments below. So for example, here's another generation where I added guitar solo between the verse and the chorus, and here is what we get.
Rhythms pulse through concrete veins, lost in echoes of refrains. Turn it up and let it flow. Feel the
Here's another cool trick you can do in your lyrics. So if you add words in parentheses at the end of the line, usually it actually makes that part echoes. So notice here, for example, in the chorus, I have sky in parentheses, and then in the next line, I have I repeated twice, and then in the next line, I have fly. So if I jump to the chorus and play that for you, let's hear what that sounds like.
Electric love in the night sky. We're gonna soar, baby, you and I. Drop the bass, let the rhythm fly. Feel the heat and don't ask why.
And there you go. Notice how it's kind of echoing the words in parentheses. Here's another tip in terms of writing your lyrics. So if you have some abbreviations like RTX GPU, make sure to actually space out each letter. So for example, you can add a space between each letter like this, or you can also add hyphens to each letter like this, or you can add dots to each letter, just to make sure each letter is spaced out and it's actually going to read out all the letters. And then finally for 5090 here, instead of using numbers, it's best to actually type out how it should say these numbers. So in our case, we want to refer to this as 5090. So here we have two verses. For the first verse, this is what you should not do, so I do not expect it to sing these parts correctly. And then for the second verse, that's where I separated the letters, plus I specified how it should say the number. So it should sing this a lot more accurately. Let's hear both verses.
Boot it up, let's fly through the view. Wandering dreams on an arc's goo. Frame so fast, we're breaking the sky. That's your love like a vest that's an agenda high. Boot it up, let's fly through the view. Rendering dreams on an RTX GPU. Frame so fast, we're breaking the sky. Next gen love like a 5090 high. Bit by bit, we're building the vibe. Voltage rising, we're so alive. No lag, no cap, just light and sound. In this digital love, we're never powered down. We're never powered down.
Alright, well, we've gone over some tips and tricks on how to format your lyrics. Let's also go over some tips and tricks for the tags. So in general, I find that only specifying the genre would work. So like rock or pop or orchestral or EDM, trance, synthwave, etc. Make sure you don't actually put all of these in one prompt or it's going to be really confusing. It's really hard to mix and match completely different genres together. Now, if you want to specify the gender of your singer, you can simply write male singer or male vocalist or female vocalist or female singer. Certain words like upbeat or energetic or emotional, these also tend to work pretty well. However, here are some tags that do not work. If you write in the style of someone, it's not going to work. So if you write in the style of Taylor Swift, this isn't actually going to generate a song that's like country pop in her style. Or if you do like the Beatles, for example, I found that it doesn't actually generate a song in the style of the Beatles. So this doesn't work. And then specifying the BPM also doesn't really work. I tested this several times and I actually got a metronome to compare the BPM of the song with the specified BPM, and it's not actually correct. However, you can kind of use this tag to dictate the pace of the song. So for example, while setting a song to BPM 180 isn't actually going to give you a song with BPM of 180, it is going to be faster than if you set a song with BPM of like 60, for example. So you could use this to roughly set the speed of your song. Another thing that I tried out, which doesn't really work, is setting the key. So you can't really do like A minor key, something like that, or G major, for example, or in the key of D minor. It doesn't actually give you the correct key. And then finally, time signature also doesn't really work. So even if I put in 3/4 time or something like that, it's not actually going to give me a song in 3/4 time. At least 70 to 80% of the time, this doesn't really work. So for the tags, it's mostly good for specifying the genre or instruments or mood that you want in the song. All right, now instead of lyrics, if you want to generate a completely instrumental song, you can just put instrumental in square brackets like this. So let's try this out. I'm gonna put synthwave over here. Just to make this a bit faster, I'm going to set this to 20 seconds. And let's click generate and see what that gives us. Instead of synthwave, here's an example of bluegrass, and also instead of instrumental, you can also just write inst, and it would also generate an instrumental song. For this one, I'm gonna just set it to 15 to make it even faster, and then click generate. And here's what we get. Or instead of bluegrass, here's an example of kawaii bass. Let's hear what that sounds like. Here's an example of lo-fi hip-hop. I don't know about you, but it doesn't really sound like lo-fi or hip-hop. So for instrumentals, I find that it works really well for some genres like rock or bluegrass, country, synthwave, retrowave, trance, future bass, kawaii bass. Those are pretty good. But for other genres like classical music or orchestral music or ambient music, it doesn't do so well. But note that this is kind of the same with the other tools like Suno or Udio or Refusion. They work very well at generating some genres, but not so well for others. Alright, next I want to show you a really cool feature called audio to audio. So if you click this, you can upload a reference track for it to generate the style of. So for example, I'm going to upload the first 40 seconds of a song, which I generated with Refusion. Let me play that for you really quickly.
Remember when you said, stay true, don't change. You taught me everything about keeping faith. Now I barely recognize the things you say. The person you became, was it worth it in the end? Was it worth it in the end? Tell me, was it worth it in the end?
That song was stuck in my head for a few days, by the way. Anyways, here we have a slider to adjust how much influence we want this reference audio to have on our generation. Usually even the default value of 0.5 would be too high, and if you drag this to 0.6 or 0.7, your generation is going to sound pretty much like the reference audio. So I tend to find that the range of 0.2 to 0.3 works the best. Here let's try 0.2, and then for the tags, I'm going to try to describe this song, which is pop, uplifting, and female vocals. And then for the lyrics, I'm just going to paste in some lyrics, which I generated with ChatGPT. And that's pretty much it. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. Alright, here's what we get.
Woke up to the sound of doubt, whispers trying to pull me down, but I've been through storms before, and I'm still standing at the door. I'm gonna shine anyway, even when the skies turn gray. You can try to dim the flame, but I'm gonna shine anyway.
Very nice. You can see that it sounds really similar to the reference audio. The singer sounds the same. I think the overall key and instrumentals also sounds like the reference track. So this is a really useful tool if you want to generate a new song in the style of an existing song. You can use this audio to audio feature, but note that again, this slider is super important. Make sure you set it to a lower value, otherwise it's going to sound way too similar to your reference song. Now, I noticed an error here. Let me try to find it.
Turn gray, you can try to dim the flame, but I'm going.
So here, it's kind of pronouncing an extra word here. So let's repaint this section only. I'm going to write something like, you can always try to dim the flame, just to fill in some syllables here. And then let's try to find the start and end of this line.
Even when the skies turn gray, you
So it starts at 36
can try to dim the flame.
and it ends at 40. So let's repaint 36 to 40. And then for the source, yes, we are going to use this source over here, which is our text to music generation. Or you can also upload a song here to edit, but I'm just going to use text to music and then click on repaint. All right, here's what we get. Notice I added this extra word always over here. To save you time, I'm just going to skip to the chorus.
And I'm still standing at the door. I'm gonna shine anyway. Even when the skies turn gray, you can always try to dim the flame, but I'm gonna shine anyway.
And there you go. It magically changed the lyrics wherever you want to inpaint this. One more thing I forgot to mention is that this variance slider is really important. This basically determines how much you want to change the inpainted area. If you feel like it hasn't really changed the song, you can try to increase this variance amount to change the area even more. All right, next, let's also go over some of these tabs over here. So first, this retake tab basically regenerates the song that you generated above, but it adds some difference to it. So that's what this variance slider is about. So if you drag this to a lower value, like 0.1 or 0.2, for example, it's going to regenerate this song. It's going to keep most of the elements the same, but there's going to be some subtle differences. Whereas if you drag this value higher and higher, it's going to add even more differences to the song. So for example, if this is the original song, let me play this for you first.
Neon lights, they flicker bright. City hums in dead of night. Rhythms pulse through concrete veins, lost in echoes of refrains.
All right, so if that is the original song, and if we retake it with a variance of 0.2, let's hear what that would sound like.
Neon lights, they flicker bright. City hums in dead of night. Rhythms pulse through concrete veins, lost in echoes of refrains.
So notice that it's a bit different from the original song. Now let's set the variance even higher to 0.4 and hear what that sounds like.
Neon lights, they flicker bright. City hums in dead of night. Rhythms pulse through concrete veins, lost in echoes of refrains.
So as you can hear, it sounds way more different than the original song. So basically use this retake setting if you want to regenerate your song, but add in some differences. And then for repainting, we've gone over that before. It's where you can edit just a specific section of the song. And you would specify the start time and the end time of where in the song you want to edit over here. And then for this edit tab, here's what it does. It's also super useful if you want to get the person to sing different lyrics, but keep the same song. So here I've already generated a song. The genre is acoustic pop emotional. Let's hear what this sounds like first.
I wake up with the sunlight on my face. Same old coffee, different kind of day. Scrolling through the memories we made, trying to find a reason why you walked away. But I won't let it break me down. I'll paint a smile, wear my crown.
All right, so let's say I want to get her to sing out just a few words differently, but keep the rest of the song the same. Well, on this edit tab, I can basically copy the lyrics over here, and let's switch up some of the words. So instead of day, I'm going to write way. Instead of why you walked away, I'm going to write why you couldn't stay. And then instead of break me down, I'm going to write break me now. So here we've made some subtle changes to some of these lyrics. And then down here, I'm going to select only lyrics to make sure it only switches out the lyrics that I've edited, but it doesn't affect the rest of the song. And then for the rest of the settings, I can leave it as is. Down here, I'm going to select text to music because yes, I want it to refer to this song, which we just generated. And then after that, let's click edit and see what that gives us. All right, here's the final song. Notice that it's exactly the same as the initial song, but it's gonna sing our edited lyrics instead.
I wake up with the sunlight on my face. Same old coffee, different kind of way. Scrolling through the memories we made, trying to find a reason why you couldn't stay. But I won't let it break me now. I'll paint a smile, wear my crown. I'm dancing through the heartache, spinning in the rain.
And there you go. So that is this really useful edit feature. And then finally, we have this extend tab. This is pretty self-explanatory. So this basically extends the song that you generated above over here. If you want to extend this by 30 seconds from the right, then you would select this, or you can also increase the length that you want to extend. Or instead of extending this to the right, if you want to extend the song to the left, then you can also adjust this slider. And then for the extend source, if you select text to music, it's just going to be this one here. Or if you click upload, you can also upload a song over here for it to extend. And that's pretty much it. That sums up all the features that you can do in this platform. It's a really powerful tool and it's completely free and open source. So next, let's actually go over how to download and use this offline for unlimited times on your computer. So here is their official GitHub repo, which I'll link to in the description below. Notice that if you scroll down here, it says the minimum VRAM requirement is 8 gigabytes. So this is very accessible to many people. And I'm sure because this is open source, the community is going to quantize or compress this even further to potentially make this work with even lower VRAM. But note that for now, at least on the official repo, the minimum requirement is 8 gigabytes. And note that this doesn't have to work with an NVIDIA GPU. You can even get this to work with a MacBook M2. By the way, they also have a Comfy UI integration, so click on this if you want to use this for Comfy UI. But for this video, to save you the trouble of downloading Comfy UI and working with all these nodes and noodles, I'm just going to go over how to download and use their native interface. So the first step is we need to git clone this repository, which requires that you have git installed on your computer. If you don't, here's how to install it. If you already have git installed, feel free to skip to the next section. So all we got to do is download the latest release for whatever operating system you're using. So I'm using Windows, so I'm just going to click on download for Windows. I'm running 64-bit, so I'm going to click on this to download, and it's now downloading this exe file. So once that's completed, all we got to do is open that exe file and then follow the steps. So I'm going to click on next. I'm just going to go with the default install location, which is program files/git. So I'll click next for that. And then I'm just going to leave this at the default. And then I'm going to click next again and click next here. We're just going to use the default settings for all of these. There's a lot of settings that you need to go through. So I'm just going to click next for all of these. All right, and then it should go ahead and install all the files. So this might take a few minutes. Perfect, so now we have Git installed. All right, so assuming you do have Git installed on your computer, simply navigate to where on your computer you want to install this. So let's say I want to install this on my desktop. I would simply open up my desktop and at the top here, type in cmd to open my command prompt within my desktop folder. And then we just need to copy this line to git clone this ACEStep repository. So let's press enter, and then afterwards on our desktop you should see this new folder called ACEStep, which if you open it, it should contain all the files and folders that you see in this GitHub repo. Alright, the next step is to change the directory into the ACEstep folder, because in our command prompt right now we are still in desktop. So I'm going to copy this line and paste it in here to change the folder to ACEstep. So after I press enter, note that we are now within this ACEstep folder, which we just cloned. Alright, the next step is we do need to have Conda to create a virtual environment. So if you don't have Conda installed, here is how to install it. If you already have Conda installed, feel free to skip to the next section. Now, I'm just on anaconda.com, and actually what I'm going to do is install mini Conda. This is a minimalist version of Anaconda. If you install the full Anaconda, it installs a lot of packages and dependencies that you might not need. This just takes up more room on your computer, and of course the installation time is a bit longer. But with mini Conda, it's just a bare bones package, and you can always install additional packages and dependencies afterwards. So I'm going to click on latest Miniconda installer links by Python version, and I'm using Windows, so I'm going to install one of these. Now, for free and open source AI tools, usually they do not support Python 3.12, so it's better to install the Python 3.11 version. So I'm going to click on this, which should download an exe file to your computer. Once it's finished downloading, simply double click on this and then follow the steps to complete the installation. So I'm going to click next, and then agree, and then let's set this to all users. I'm going to go with the default destination folder, and then I'm going to check this as well, clear the package cache upon completion. This just gives you back some more disk space without affecting functionality. Alright, once that's completed, let's click next, and then we are finished. Now, we aren't done yet, so if you open up the command prompt and you type in conda -- version, you're still going to see that Conda is not recognized. This is because we haven't added Anaconda to our path yet. So let's exit out of this, and then to add it to our path, we simply search for this function, edit the system environment variables. We're going to click on this, and then click on environment variables, and then click on the one that says path, and then click edit. And here's where you add in the path of Anaconda. So it depends where you installed Anaconda. For me, I installed it in program data, so it's going to be in program data /mini Conda. And then if I double click on scripts, you can see that Conda is here. So this is the folder we want to paste in. So I'm going to right click on this and then copy as path, and then back in the environment variables window, I'm going to click new and then paste in the path here, and then click OK, and then OK, and then OK again. Now, if you open up command prompt again and type in conda -- version, you should see that we are running 24.5.0. So this shows that we have successfully installed Anaconda. Alright, assuming you do have Conda installed, the next step is to just use Conda to create a new virtual environment called ACEStep, and this is going to use Python 3.10. So let me just copy this line and then paste it in here and press enter. And while this is creating a new environment, if you're new to this, here's the point of creating a virtual environment. Think of it as like a separate hard drive on your computer that houses all the packages and dependencies that are required for ACEStep. And you want to download and house everything in a separate environment so that it doesn't conflict with existing libraries and dependencies on your computer. After we have created the virtual environment, the next step is to activate the virtual environment. So I'm going to click on this line and then paste it in here. So it's going to use Conda to activate the environment we just created, which is called ACE_step. And then if we press enter, notice that we now have the environment name in parentheses at the start of every line, which signifies that you are now in your virtual environment. Alright, so we've covered this option. The next step is to install all the dependencies. So if you are using Windows with an NVIDIA GPU, which I am, you need to run this line. So let me copy this, and then within our virtual environment, I'm going to paste it in here and press enter. And so this is going to download PyTorch and other dependencies, which are around 2.8 gigabytes in size. So this is going to take a while depending on the speed of your internet. Alright, if you see this line again with no error messages, then that means you have successfully installed PyTorch. Now, the next step is to pip install ACEStep and its core dependencies. So let's copy this line, and then simply paste it in here and press enter. So again, it's going to proceed to install all the packages and dependencies that are required to run this, and it's going to take a few minutes depending on your internet. Alright, and after installing this long list of dependencies, if you see this line with no error messages, then you have successfully installed ACEStep. So we can now proceed with running this. So let me just exit out of this command prompt and show you how to start this up from scratch. So all you need to do is go into your ACEStep folder wherever you downloaded it, and then at the top type in cmd to open up this folder within command prompt. And then we simply need to type in Conda activate and whatever you named your virtual environment. In our case, it's ACE_step. So I'm going to type this in and then press enter. So you should see that we are now within our virtual environment. The final step is to run this line of code. ACEstep -- port 7865. So I'm just going to copy this line and then paste it in here. Now, the first time you run this, it might take a few minutes, but eventually you're going to see this line running on local URL. And all you need to do is hold Control and click on this link, and it would open up this interface on your browser. Even though this is using your browser, note that this is completely offline. It's using this local address that you see over here. Let's make sure everything works. So I'm just going to paste in some random lyrics. To make this super fast, I'm going to set the duration to 15 seconds. For the tags, I'm just going to put pop, and then let's click generate. Notice the first time you click generate, it has to download some additional files like the models to actually generate the music. And this, it looks like, takes around 7 to 8 gigabytes. So again, depending on your internet, you're gonna have to wait a few minutes for this to download everything before it can actually generate your first song. Alright, after downloading all the models, it proceeds to generate the song, and here's what we get. Let's play this really quickly to make sure everything is working.
Woke up in a city that's always alive. Neon lights, they shimmer, they thrive. Electric pulses beat, they drive. My heart races just to survive.
Perfect, so there you go. That's how to install ACEstep locally on your computer. Like I said, this is by far the best free and open source AI music generator you can use right now. It's super flexible. There are so many capabilities for you to edit songs or repaint songs or even do audio to audio. This is a super powerful tool. Props to them for open sourcing this, and it's only gonna get better. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this, and if you've had a chance to play around with it, what other cool or impressive generations were you able to come up with? And if you run into any errors while installing this, also welcome to copy and paste your error message in the comments below, and I'll try to help you troubleshoot as much as possible. By the way, if you want to win the exact laptop that I personally use to run these AI tools, it's a Dell Precision 5690 with an RTX 5000 Ada. And I'm partnering with Dell Technologies to give away the same laptop to a lucky winner. I'll have a link for the giveaway in the description below. Terms and conditions apply.